Welcome to the Nerd Party.
Let the filibustering begin.
Welcome to Nerd Party.
Hello and welcome to Filibuster here on the Nerd Party. On today's show, we spend lockdown with the angriest, most volatile M&M since B-Rabbit, Spit Rhymes and 8 Mile, or Red and Yellow were involved in a rather strange foursome. It's Malcolm and Marie. In addition to taking a deep dive into the film, we're going to be running down our top 5 Netflix originals. I'm your co-host Alice King, and with me is the nerdy white guy from the A24 project, Lee Hutchison, and the white woman from Outtake magazine, Laura Potier. How are you both?
Very well.
Yeah, I've just come off of reading IndieWire to chat with you, so yeah, it's good.
Yeah, there's lots of discourse to cover in today's episode, of course. Now, Malcolm and Marie was written and directed by Sam Levinson during lockdown and stars John David Washington as Zendaya. As a filmmaker and his girlfriend return home from his movie premiere, smouldering tensions and painful revelations push them towards a combustive reckoning as they wait for the critics' reviews to come in. Now, this was a film that came out of lockdown and is potentially going to figure in the Oscars and BAFTAs in a couple of weeks. We find out, is it worth a watch? So, Lee, let's come to you first. When did you first hear about Malcolm and Marie, and were you looking forward to it, and did it live up to your expectations?
I had no expectations kind of really going in. I remember sort of the news kind of coming out at some point last year where they were talking about like sort of Sam Levinson and Zendaya and John David Washington had made sort of a lockdown movie. And I'll be honest, the few things sort of made me kind of roll my eyes more when I saw the news of like lockdown movie. I mean, we've seen a lot of it. Like, it's lockdown movie, but it's in Harrods. It's a lockdown movie, but it's over Zoom. It's a lockdown movie, but it's in the Hollywood Hills. It's like, I'm almost tired already about hearing about kind of lockdown movies. I think it's going to be an interesting genre, but it's, I don't know. It's just the fact, like, I have enough dealing with COVID in my day-to-day life. I don't know if I want to hear about it when it's like, I watch movies to escape. I don't want to hear about COVID just now. But, I do like Sam Levinson. I find him an interesting kind of writer-director. We've discussed his work on the A24 project with Euphoria, which I think is, at times, it's like watching a Paul Thomas Anderson TV show, which I'm happy with. I love Paul Thomas Anderson. I love his visual style. So yeah, I was interested. Like the trailer, when I think of like Sam Levinson, I think of like a visual flair and quite, high intensity. And I remembered watching the trailer thinking, oh, it's a film. But I must admit, kind of going into it, I really did enjoy the film, and I've been looking forward to talking about it with someone.
So, and Laura, what were your expectations going into your first viewing?
So interestingly, as a disclaimer first, I've actually not seen Euphoria. I watched maybe one episode when it first came out, and then for no particular reason dropped off. So I didn't have any expectations going into it regarding Levinson's involvement, but I do very much enjoy seeing John David Washington and Zendaya in their respective projects. So I was quite excited to see them really get, the opportunity for a two-hander to really show off their acting chops. I definitely think the Netflix trailer for it did not incite any kind of high expectations or even particular enthusiasm. I thought the way they marketed it made it look a lot worse than it was. I guess they were kind of banking on that same kind of marketing strategy as they'd done for Marriage Story, except obviously it being a set in one room with only two people, there's a lot less dynamism, so it just didn't really work. But yeah, going into it, I was mostly just excited to see the actors do what they do.
Absolutely. I mean, maybe, I guess Netflix were basically, perhaps touting this as a 1 hour, 50-minute version of the Every Day I Wake Up and Wish You Were Dead scene from Marriage Story, of two people just angrily shouting at each other. But I know that this is, as I said, a lockdown film, but it's probably the first lockdown film that I've watched that has not been actually about a pandemic or anything like that. Lee, you hinted that you were slightly tired of this little niche genre which has popped up. It's always interesting that people seem to manage to basically write, film, direct, edit, and then out these films in about 2 weeks. I know Ben Wheatley did the same for In the Earth, which was recently at Sundance. Laura, your thoughts on this pandemic subgenre of films?
It feels more like a sort of fun hobby for filmmakers at the moment. That whole sort of label, it's very much giving off that impression that like, oh, we're bored at home and we missed the attention, so let me put out a really bad film. Like, no, to be fair, right, that you had Host and that was legitimately good, but then you had something like Songbird, which was absolutely atrocious. I think more than anything right now, a lockdown movie is an easy market label to kind of push out content and stir up intrigue. But what's interesting about Malcolm and Marie is, like you said, it has no reference whatsoever to the outside world, so there's no sort of relation to the fact that we're in lockdown, except for the fact that it was made with a crew of just 22 people and was done very quickly.
Yeah, I mean, there's even a minor reference in the film about the fact that the film company doing the premiere put them up in this house, this lovely traditional Hollywood Hills style house, which has got lots of glass windows and lots of space to move around, so everyone can effectively be socially distanced while filming. So that was nice. But the film has drawn a lot of praise for the performances, which we'll get into, but there's obviously been a bit of backlash and controversy around the film. Obviously, the biggest controversy is the fact that Zendaya prepares mac and cheese from a packet and not from scratch. It's a hill I'm willing to die on. I just, when she says that she's making it, and then I just see her rip open this powdered sauce, and then I'm just like, ugh. I mean, could you not phone for a Deliveroo or something if you're that hungry afterwards? But I was tempted to make some myself, but I will refrain from angrily eating. I've never seen someone eat as angrily and loudly in a movie, I think, as John David Washington attacks that macaroni cheese. But I mean, where do your thoughts lie on the preparation of the macaroni cheese? Someone said it looked really good, but it's like it's in black and white. How can you tell?
I think it probably looks good when you're drunk and you're really hungry, and that's about it.
Lee, have you ever made cheesy pasta, as it's known in Scotland?
I've been a student before, so that answers that question. Yeah, it's been a long, long time. I think there's definitely been an uptake in it. Like, one of my co-workers watched the film and then he had like packaged stuff the other week. So yeah, it seems to be causing a resurgence. Like, when I watched that film, like, it's always weird when you watch these things sometimes in like a bubble, whether it's like a film festival or a screener before something comes out. Like, you watch something and you think, that's like a scene of someone having like macaroni or going to the toilet or having like a brief kind of a side argument about critics. Oh, that all seems fine. I don't see any discourse or issues coming up here. And then it's always interesting when that bubble gets burst and you discover like what the outside world thinks. And I didn't anticipate the macaroni thing becoming a thing.
Yeah, I know, because Lee, we both watched it on a BAFTA screener, probably sort of very early January, and it was a while before the sort of official sort of Netflix reviews started to come out of the film. And yeah, there's a lot of different things that people have issues with. I mean, the film is partly autobiographical, apparently based on Sam Levinson's failure to thank his girlfriend at the premiere of Assassination Nation. But some people have sort of, clambered on the fact that, he's, you've got this director sort of complaining about, these people moaning about his film and trying to make it in an industry where essentially Sam Levinson, son of Barry Levinson, could be accused of nepotism. John David Washington is Denzel Washington's son. Although, to be fair, when I saw Black Klansman, I did not know that he was Denzel Washington's son. I thought he was a terrific actor. But some people have also sort of latched on to his use of two black actors to make these points about Hollywood and stuff like that as a white man himself. Diving head on into the discourse, Laura, what did you make of the various discourses, and did any of them hold up any merit for you?
Oof. I think we're all on film Twitter, so we know there are many, many different discourses and controversies around this film. I think Malcolm and Marie is an interesting case where I went into it. I also watched it ahead of release, just not as far in advance as you guys seem to have. I'd avoided all reviews and sort of as much of the discourse as I could before watching it. So I went into it not knowing too much about, the attacks on the LA Times critic and all of that stuff. I just went into it and just thoroughly enjoyed the movie, and it was only afterwards when I started reading more about Sam Levinson and about the various issues between this idea that a white filmmaker is using black actors to settle some sort of vendetta, and using black actors as a mouthpiece to legitimize a point that might not even really work if it came from anyone else. So I thought that was, that there's just so much to think about, and it's one of those cases where I think you can have two separate discussions about whether or not you enjoy the movie and whether you think the movie has merit, and a separate discussion about, the sort of power dynamics between a filmmaker, the film criticism industry, and the actors involved.
Absolutely. I mean, we'll park the discourse there and talk about the merits of the film. I think we can come back to the savage, about 10-minute long rant on film criticism. I mean, I know from watching it that I was completely suckered in from the get go, and for me, it was just a chance to enjoy two actors working at the top of their game. Really, I thought John David Washington. I thought this was his best performance. It's his sort of loosest and freest. I think he was great in Black Klansman, but in there he's sort of playing a real life person. With Tenet, as good he is as the protagonist, I think some of the issues are he's quite restrained in the fact that he is essentially the audience participation for that movie as well, and that he's also the one who's having to ask all the questions about what the hell is going on, and even by the end he's probably about as clueless as the audience as to what's going on. I mean, I've kind of worked it out. Essentially, it's the Ghost in the Library episode of Doctor Who, if anyone's ever seen that one. It's basically like that, but set in a Bond movie. But I really liked the way he was in this. Zendaya, I thought she was terrific in Euphoria, but I think she was better in this film. I think she's got a couple of fantastic scenes. The scene with the knife in the kitchen, and then like the sort of final scene in the bedroom. I thought she was just amazing in that. But I think I enjoyed the film. I thought it was fantastic. I think I gave it 5 stars after my first watch, but I'd realized then that some people would not like the film, and I think it was basically more on the fact that the two characters themselves are potentially insufferable, narcissistic, self-involved, and just potentially awful people. So I expect if you don't like the characters, sitting around for an hour and 50 minutes of the two of them discussing what clearly is at times a very toxic relationship between the two of them, it might be quite off-putting. So Lee, did you enjoy watching these two characters go at it?
Yeah, I really did. I don't know if it says something about me living alone, but it was quite nice to just have people just in the house for a while. Yeah, it's one of those things. Like I agree with you. Like I've liked John David Washington in kind of various things. Like Black Klansman, he is fantastic. And Tenet, I couldn't quite take to him in it, but I think that was a problem really with the whole film, not him. But I just thought he was so charismatic, and I felt like every one of them was so full of beans as well. Like, I know it sounds ridiculous to say it, but I was sitting there really impressed at like these monologues that they were just able to just shoot off, you know, in one camera takes. Like I was that impressed me. I just thought it was fantastic performances from them all, and it felt like a real toxic relationship. You know, there's highs, there's lows, they appease each other, someone has a victory, then the other person has a victory. Like I think we've all probably been there, whether it's with a partner or a flatmate or a friend, where it's at this time of night, maybe 2 a.m, you've had a long night, everyone's a bit tired, maybe you're hungry, and just everything kind of just seems to spill out. Like you can't have one argument without having another, and it just all flows from there. And I just found it really interesting to watch that relationship kind of brought to life, and I could believe that they were a couple. And I found this insight into a couple of hours of their life just really, really gripping. I came away with thinking like this was a 4 out of 5 film for me, and I would love to have watched it in a cinema. I think watching it streamed to your TV is fine. Probably watching on Netflix is good, but I would love to have seen this film with an audience, heard the discourse afterwards, like maybe couples that are sitting down watching it. Oh, who did you relate to more? Were you more Malcolm and Marie, or Marie maybe had a good point there, and maybe hearing the boyfriend or whatever take a totally different thing. I think it's the same with something like Promising Young Woman, in a way that you just feel like there's an exciting discourse to be had with people, couples, friends, you know, dates about a film like this. And obviously it never seems to kind of get replicated on Twitter, because you're not DMing or tweeting at your partner, I guess, after watching a film like this.
Yeah, no, I saw yesterday Zendaya tweeting on saying Happy Valentine's Day, and for all those who are watching Malcolm and Marie with their significant other, I'm sorry. So it joins the classic, rom-coms of 2020 and 2019 of Midsummer and Marriage Story as films probably not to watch with a partner, or maybe just in order to work out your own issues. I mean, there nearly wasn't a movie, Zendaya herself says that she just wants to have something to eat and go to bed, but they just wouldn't let it lie. So, Laura, what did you make of the two actors going at it?
I honestly loved it. I was quite surprised to see some reviews call the acting bad and over the top, because first of all, I think it's quite natural with that kind of relationship where everything's so heightened, and there's this kind of tendency to one up each other and to, it's completely unrestrained, and that can come across as over the top, but it's also then there's an aspect to it, a theatricality to both the screenplay and the acting that I think actually works really well, especially on such a small and with even the house itself is kind of like a stage. I think that kind of acting wouldn't work in any other movie, because it would come across as, way too stark, way too inauthentic, exaggerated, whatever you want to call it. But in this particular movie, with such a small cast and that sort of, fixed one place setting, I think it works terrifically well. And same as you guys, like John David Washington, loved him in Klansman. I didn't think they'd given him much to do with Tenet, to be honest. He was kind of like a narrative plant, if anything. But it was so great to see him really like go at it, be really free, really loose with this one. And then Zendaya, to be honest, I've always found her very, very good. But obviously this is a much more mature role for her now. And I thought they also had fantastic chemistry, which was great, especially with how many people were concerned about the age difference between the actors and all that. You kind of just forget about it because they just bounce off of each other.
So I was just going to say that, Zendaya is older beyond her years, and I think John David Washington has a natural immaturity to him in this film, which makes him seem a lot younger, I think, which means I never even sort of considered the age difference between them as as an issue, and I think it's just a silly thing. I mean, there's much more grievous cinematic examples of age differences, I think. Sorry, Lee.
No. And what I think as well, like with the argument, like we all know what it's like to have an argument with people that we love, whether it's friends, family, partners. Like the reality is, like, this is a film writer, director, and like a former actress all having a go at each other. Like there's probably that larger than life sort of lovey persona where like everything is always going to be so dramatic, etc. And I can imagine like this isn't the first time that they've gone at it like something like that. And I there's probably an element of it all being sort of performance for them, even sort of his Malcolm's kind of monologues about critics or relationships or how he didn't say thank you. Like, you know, it's one of those things, like, it is that element of performance. Like, he's probably putting over there, he's trying to direct this relationship, you know, oh, I'm sorry that I didn't do this, you know, this was happening. They're all coming from their established backgrounds, and I can imagine being in an argument with an actress or an actor or a director would have its own unique kind of style that probably none of us could relate to.
And Laura used the word inauthentic earlier, and Malcolm has an issue with authenticity in films and people using the word authenticity in their reviews. So we can go on to the 10-minute, I think, if I remember correctly, unbroken single take wide shot of him ranting at Zendaya. And anyone who'll listen, I don't know, have either of you seen the TikTok video of Malcolm and Marie's neighbours?
Yes.
Yes, of the guy sort of he's still in the garden ranting about Barry Jenkins and stuff. It's like, you know, if Malcolm and Marie won like best film at the Oscars, that would be best short. I think it's just so funny. But I mean, did either of you feel personally attacked by his comments on film criticism?
I don't think personally attacked, no. I think there was definitely some kind of cringiness, like even coming from Washington's mouth. There was this sort of level of pettiness, especially knowing the background with Levinson, and obviously you can't help but read a sort of petty vendetta being settled against that LA Times critic who wrote a negative review for Assassination Nation. Personally attacked, no. I thought he raised some very interesting points were raised about particularly the idea of identity politics as like the overarching sort of primary way of reviewing art that's created or performed by non-white people. I think, yeah, it's one of those things where like the interesting points are made, it gives you a lot to think about, but there's that sense that it's just coming from such a petty place that it almost sort of discredits the points being made.
Yeah, I see that. Lee, did you feel attacked in that?
No, I've like, I'm sure, like, I can't speak for you two, but we've all been at like festivals or done PR things or even Zoom interviews where like you kind of just like, you're coming into an interview, maybe it's been like the day after like a review or something's kind of taken place, or there's been a premiere and there's maybe not been the reaction that they were hoping for. And you always seem to catch people at that moment where they're quite tender, pissed off, and they sometimes need that validation. Like, I remembered going into an interview once and like the director was really pissed off about a review that had dropped the night before after a closing premiere, and he was like really angry. The person didn't get it. That wasn't the film we were trying to make. And I remembered being there thinking like, I thought the film was okay, it's fine, but you almost kind of like, I remember just sort of just chatting with him going, Well, yeah, like the film wasn't like that. It was meant to be, you were sort of like, you ended up acting as sort of like, you know, someone to just like listen to this rant and maybe just reassure them a little bit, because you're thinking like, well, I can't have you kind of ranting and moaning about like reviews at the start of like our interview. And I remember it just like our recording was running at the time, and just thinking like, that would be an interesting one to drop unedited. But yeah, like I think it's like Levinson, other directors, like that is those directors, like they could be given all this money, beautiful houses, HBO shows, whatever, and they are still insecure, petty, annoyed, easily pissed off, like they aren't in a bubble. And I get it. Like, it's tough enough, hearing any sort of criticism and feedback sometimes, and how you deal with it can be, a challenge. But yeah, I thought it was quite authentic. And whether I take it as like Barry Levinson is actually exposing himself as being completely unaware, or ignorant about his own failings, maybe there's that, or maybe he is self-aware and he's tapping into that, I don't know. But I viewed that and I thought, like, I've seen that director several times on PR interviews, or at closing or things, or little tangents they go on about reviews. Like, I've seen it.
Yeah, I mean, and you're clearly not going to name the director as well. That's going to be a trade secret. He doesn't dish the dirt. But I mean, these sort of things can sort of become popular. I know that Charlie Kaufman and Mark Kermode have had a long sort of public beef about a review that was given to one of his films, and to the point that he wrote about Mark Kermode in his book Antkind as a critic that didn't get it and stuff. But I mean, a lot of this stuff is down to sort of personal opinion, and you can have very differing viewpoints on it. The film Room 237 is a perfect example of people being able to read pretty much anything into a film if they wanted to, in terms of The Shining. It could be about mental illness. It could be about the effects of alcoholism. It could be Stanley Kubrick actually faked the moon landings. It could be about the actual Holocaust of Jewish people and Native Americans on American soil. If you have an idea, you can basically find stuff to back it up in any movie. I think when it comes to reviews and stuff like that, I think not everyone's going to like it. I mean, true directors, they'll spend a few years, especially if they've written it as well, trying to make the film. Just getting a film made is quite an achievement. So if someone then just comes in and trashes it, then yeah, it can be hurtful. But I think if the review is well written and well argued on terms of what it likes and it doesn't like, then I think you can't really complain. I know a lot of people got stick just for a recent example, Wonder Woman reviews. People were accused of liking a terrible film, but these people probably saw it on the big screen at the IMAX, and after a couple of months of not seeing a film on the big screen, yeah, you might enjoy it a bit more on that. Or but I think if people who just sort of said, oh, you hated it or you liked it, whatever, but didn't even bother actually reading the reviews, where if you read down into it, then you can come to your own conclusion about this person has their own opinion, and it's who are you to say it is wrong otherwise. I mean, I thought it was an entertaining diatribe. I think, yeah, there was some interesting points to be made. I mean, certainly in the last sort of year, I think I've become personally slightly more selective in the films that I review for websites. It's like, if there's stuff which is, say, like from a black director or that, then there was something like Passing that was at Sundance, and it was like, am I really the right person to review this film for the website, when there's perhaps a person of color who has got a better idea about this? The fact that Passing is about two black women who can pass themselves as white, but it's also written and directed by a white woman and in black and white cinematography, which blurs lines even more. So I could come with an opinion on that, but I'd be probably more interested to read other people's opinions on it. So I've become a bit more selective in that thing. But yeah, I'm happy to review Malcolm and Marie and give my opinions on it. And I guess, yeah, the lines are blurred with this as well. So I mean, has anyone else got any sort of opinions on Malcolm and Marie? I mean, where do you think it stands on the Oscars and stuff like that? It didn't really make it in the Golden Globes. It's been longlisted for the BAFTAs and stuff like that. Do you see anyone managing to sneak in a nomination?
Maybe the acting performances, I think, could stand a chance, but yeah, I can't quite picture it. But Zendaya, youngest ever, was it Emmy or Golden Globe? Emmy, I think it was Emmy winner for Euphoria. So there's still a chance that she might do the double within a calendar year.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if at least one of them got an acting nom, and also throwing it out there, a nomination for cinematography. Because I did think it was completely beautiful. Like, I know it's only just the one house, and it's easy to make something look really sexy in black and white, but I think, yeah, I really, really enjoyed the look and feel of the movie.
Yeah, Marcel Rev is a great cinematographer, and I loved his work on Assassination Nation and Euphoria. Whatever you think of those shows and the stories in it, he elevates it to such an incredible level. I think like he is one of those kind of cinematographers. I think he's going to go incredible places in the coming years.
Yeah, I mean, you just have to look at a film like The Lighthouse to see how sexy black and white cinematography can be.
Yes.
So, but no, I thought it was a stunning film. It was halfway between, like, the most gorgeous Calvin Klein advert you've ever seen, and it reminded me of, like, the Dolce Vita and 8½, sort of, what's it, 60s films from Italy and stuff like that. It just looked absolutely gorgeous. Would you guys be interested to see Malcolm Elliott's Lego Movie sequel, or do you think it's the wrong move for him to move into?
No, I need to see that, and I need I need Marie to get the lead voice role.
I think from the sound of it, it would probably be set in the same universe as the previous two Lego movies. I think you're fine. I don't know if that was a dig at Barry Jenkins or not, considering he's now doing the Lion King sequel. I don't know. It just seems like Sam Levinson has something in for Barry Jenkins, and I don't know why.
Hadn't even thought of that. That's an interesting point.
Even like Spike Lee, where like last weekend going like, I would never have pictured him even considering like a Marvel movie, and there he is like, yeah, I would do that. So like, I think kind of probably to your similar point, like if you wanted to find deeper meaning in the film, if you wanted to feel that you were being personally attacked, you could probably watch that and think, oh shit, maybe I shouldn't take that Marvel movie or Lego movie. Like, I didn't realize I was being aimed at. But maybe that there's something for everyone to feel crossed over with this film.
No one is immune from the Marvel money. No one. It's just too good a deal.
Just Scorsese.
Apart from if you're Edgar Wright. Oh, yes, I guess. Yeah, no, Scorsese's probably burned his bridges. But,
Edgar Wright did get a credit on Ant-Man, though, him and Joe Cornish. So they technically cashed the Marvel buck.
Technically, I think at that point they were legally obliged to give him that. Otherwise, they probably would have taken it away if they could. So yeah, Malcolm and Marie is out now on Netflix and is a Netflix Originals film. Over the years, since Netflix started their own content back in 2015, the phrase Netflix Originals has altered slightly. Back then, the very first film was Beast of No Nations, which was a film which they had produced themselves. Now it's sort of more broadened out term to include films which they've bought the distribution and exhibition rights for. Obviously, Netflix is a major player in the game these days. Ever since Roma got BAFTAs and stuff, which caused a huge fallout at the UK cinema chains. But I would have to say that Netflix are doing their part in keeping cinemas going. I watched a trial of the Chicago 7 in the cinema during lockdown, and they keep putting films into cinemas, albeit for just a couple of weeks in order to qualify for awards. But I was looking at the BAFTA long list just before we came on air, and out of the 15 films which are nominated for long listed for best film, The Five Bloods, The Dig, Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, Mank, News of the World, and Trial of Chicago 7 and The White Tiger. So that's 7 of the 15 are Netflix, and then you've got Sound of Metal and One Night in Miami, which are Amazon Prime. So I think it's undeniable that they are now major players, and they're not going to go anywhere, but they're still going to support cinema. And now the topic of discussion is, what are everyone's top 5 Netflix original films that have been released? And bonus points to anyone who chooses the greatest title of any Netflix original film, but only in the UK, is the Robert Redford film Our Souls at Night. It looks fine when written down, but as soon as you say it, ruins the film. Never watched it because I couldn't get past the title. So, Lee, let's come to you first. What are your top 5 Netflix originals?
Yeah, I was stunned when this was an idea we proposed to each other kind of like the tail end of last year. Like, oh, we should do like Netflix originals. And I thought it might be similar to like an A24 or something like that. Like maybe like 100 odd movies. I'm surprised no one's done a podcast going through Netflix originals. And then when I went onto the Wikipedia page for Netflix originals, which had 5 subpages for all the different years of it, I was genuinely stunned at how much they've put out in the past few years. And I think there's something to be said about how much they've pumped out and has been kind of like, I've never seen half of these, if I'm being generous, pop up on my recommended list or watch list or checkout list. So, bizarre. But the 5 I've gone for are The Irishman, Fire, The Greatest Party That Never Happened, Okja, Caliber, and Uncut Gems, which was a UK Netflix release.
That's a good selection.
Yeah, I've just realised I'm going to have to change my list.
Oh no!
Just because, oh yes, no, technically that one would count. Okay, Laura, what have you got?
I kind of had the same situation as Lee, where I when you first told me, oh, pick your 5 faves, I was like, oh, easy. And then just for good measure, went through the Wikipedia page and I was like, oh my God, I totally forgot this was a Netflix one. Or I saw like another one, I was like, damn, that's a lot more than I thought. Some overlap with Lee's selection so far. I'm not claiming that my top 5 are the best ones on there. They're just ones that I like to go back to and rewatch. Dolomite Is My Name is actually on this one. I thought that was really good fun and kind of like a surprise one that I watched without many expectations. Uncut Gems, for obvious reasons. Annihilation. Yeah. You know how I am with Garland, like Ex Machina, Annihilation, I'm sold. Also have Okja on this list, just for the sheer fact that not only is it incredible, but it's one of those that I don't think I'll ever have the courage to revisit, because that's just how like moving and fundamentally scarring that story is. And then for a 5th one, kind of a rogue fun one, The Babysitter. You know, that kind of like dark comedy satire one. Yeah, that one's a lot of fun.
That was a surprise for me actually as well. And actually the sequel was actually quite enjoyable as well. I was very surprised by those. I've gone for, actually I'm going to take that one off. You both mentioned Uncut Gems, so I'm not going to mention Uncut Gems again. But I've gone with The Perfection, which I'm not sure if anyone else on this podcast have either of you seen The Perfection?
Not even heard of it.
No, it's about a couple of classical musicians who go on a trip and something bad happens, and it seems like one film, and then about 40 minutes in it just becomes something else entirely, like a strange, like I think one film I could potentially sort of compare it to is Audition. So I mean it's just utterly bonkers. So I would highly recommend that one.
Yeah, I like that.
Private Life, starring Paul Giamatti and the incredible Catherine Hahn. This is more of a dramatic role for Catherine Hahn, but I think she is just amazing in everything, including WandaVision. and she deserves more sort of leading role. So there's that. I have also gone with Dolomite Is My Name. I thought that was just brilliant when I saw it. I didn't know the original story, but I thought it was a return to form for Eddie Murphy. And I mean, it's basically the exact same film as The Disaster Artist, but it's about one sort of film instead of the other. I also have Annihilation on my list. I'm just so glad that it was able to show over here with that. And then I've got Marriage Story at number one, just because, yes, it destroyed me. And yeah. Oh, actually, no, I did have Marriage Story. No, sorry, I meant to say Hubie Halloween. But Adam Sandler. I mean, yeah, I could have made a top 5 of Adam Sandler's terrible movies instead of Uncut Gems. But no, I wasn't going to do that. That was the movie. I'm presuming that was the movie he was going to make, the most terrible movie he could make, because he didn't get an Oscar for Uncut Gems. If not, then oof, I wonder what he's got in store, because yeah, that was something. Has anyone else had a Adam Sandler binge on Netflix? Or
I haven't had the courage.
There's so many movies that he's done now on Netflix. It feels like it's an unmanageable mountain to climb. But maybe I will do it. Like if lockdown continues maybe a couple more months, I might find the time to step away from just rewatching Star Trek to commit to maybe doing something else.
Yeah, are you going to start up another podcast, basically going through the entire back catalogue of Netflix originals? I think you'd have to do more than 2 an episode to get through it in any kind
We
of
are,
time.
Dallas. We are.
Oh boy, what have we started? What have we started? Well, thank you both for coming on and chatting about Malcolm. Anne-Marie, I was about to say Malcolm in the middle. He's in the middle. He's in the middle of Malcolm's in the middle of an argument, and Zendaya just wanted to go to bed. And the neighbours were right, just shut up about Barry Jenkins and get on with it. Jeez, people called it a cinematic tour de force, a masterwork. But no, he'll always find the issues and the problems with that. But thank you for joining us. We'll be back with more stuff soon from the Glasgow Film Festival and promising young women to come up. But in the meantime, stay safe out there and stick on something on Netflix. Hubie Halloween, you'll enjoy it. Go on, tease yourself. Bye-bye.
Join the revolution. Join the Nerd Party.
Welcome to Nerd